Keke Palmer was right to not air the Jonathon Majors interview, even though she already released the clips. Hello, my name is MJ, and I'll be talking about the things that I'm about. We're going to start off with Keke Palmer, and I am going to be talking about the new developments in the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively, It Ends With Us lawsuit drama. So, Keke Palmer. So what I like to do, I like to state my prejudices. My biases in the beginning before I talk about it. So Keke Palmer, I love her. Okay, I'm obsessed with her. She's amazing. She was one of the Black role models that my dad introduced me when I was younger. And my dad introduced me to Akilah the Bee, and my family and I were obsessed. Not only was she smart, she's creative, she's independent, she knows what she wants, she's outspoken, and I love that for her. And I love that she plays characters who embody that, and also she is that herself, Keke. So I love Keke Palmer, and I love the person that she's now become, 40, graceful, smart, effervescent, multifaceted. She has so many things going on. She has a podcast, she has movies, she does hosting gigs, she's co-hosting on one, a morning TV show. So she has this podcast. And if you don't know Keke Palmer, then I can't help you. I'm sorry. But Keke Palmer is forever part of our culture and Black culture, but also like she's big. Also, I would say she's also a Disney star. Like for me, I put Keke Palmer in the camp of Raven-Symoné. Like I'm obsessed with Raven-Symoné. Growing up, people thought I looked like Raven-Symoné, so I love her. But I digress. So now Keke Palmer has a podcast, like everybody else now these days, like me. Don't forget to follow and hit that like button. So Keke Palmer has a podcast, which I forgot that it's called, but it's good. It's more of a guest podcast. People can talk about certain topics on their own, like I am doing, or they bring on people and they have guests. So Keke Palmer usually brings on celebrities or her friends, and she talks about things. I know she sometimes talks about. I think our intros involve her and her mom sometimes. And so she did an interview with Jonathon Majors. So Jonathon Majors, I don't really follow his movie career. I know that a lot of people say that his acting is incredible. I didn't watch much of his acting, to be quite honest, and I don't remember the movies that I've watched with him in it. Anyways, even the movie that just came out with Jonathon Majors, apparently it's very, very good, but I don't know if I'm going to watch, honestly. So Jonathon Majors, he's a actor and he's a Black man, and he was now engaged with Megan Good. But anyways, there was allegations and a lawsuit, a criminal case, where he was charged with assault and all these things with his ex, where he was allegations of him being in a domestic relationship with his ex, where he was abusing his ex physically, emotionally, mentally. And he did plead not guilty in the actual criminal lawsuit, and it did settle. So what that usually means, I think he settled for money. I think in the US you could do a criminal and a civil. So I don't know what happened with the criminal. He did plead not guilty, but for the civil, I think his ex took him to court, and then he ended up settling with money, usually in civil. So she probably gave her a large amount of money. But there has been a clip circulating ever since the case has ended last year, where he admitted to strangling her. And this is, again, trigger warning for anybody, but I'm not going to go into detail. I'm not going to go into it, but he did admit to strangling her, but he said it in a way where I listened to the recording. The police that was questioning him, and he goes, and she was there. She goes, "Yeah, you got really upset, and then you touched my neck." And he goes, "Yeah, but you made me touch you." It's like textbook, abusive situations. And he went all over the media and he was talking about how, he didn't actually do it. Like, he didn't actually touch her. He didn't actually abuse her. It's a white woman coming after a black man, that type of thing, right? And so when I hear the situations, I really do think when there's smoke, there is fire. Maybe the fire won't be as large enough to burn down the building, but it might be a campfire. I do think when it comes to these things, there's some truth to it. Obviously, we saw the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation. It was a completely toxic and abusive situation from both sides. But it's quite clear that he was quite abusive. And we also had the viral recording of him running after this white woman who was running away from him, and he was trying to forcibly put his ex into the cab. She dashed out of the cab, started running, and he leaves the cab and started chasing her. Really crazy situation, right? So anyways, but now he's engaged to Megan Good, which I'll get to at the end. But I really wanted to bring this up because it was really interesting to me as to why Keke Palmer would sit down with him. And there have been allegations, it's true. Keke Palmer herself was in a very abusive relationship with her ex. And she was able to get sole custody of her child, but her ex was abusing her physically as well. And we saw the viral recordings of that as well. So I just don't understand why you would sit down with somebody who has not publicly acknowledged the hurt that he caused on a woman. And we're just in a whole different era. It's interesting because I'm a millennial and I'm not used to this type of like dodging and lying and pretending that it doesn't exist type of situation. I grew up, even though not in the midst of social media, but in the midst of things when things hit and the cable catches it or the newspaper catches it, you deal with it and you address it. This whole thing now, even in the age of social media, a lot of celebrities either don't acknowledge it, they pretend it doesn't exist, or they tell you that it's not true. And when there's tons of evidence contrary to that, especially with the recording the recording that has come out in the last few months where Jonathon Majors has, said to the police in the room with his ex that yes, he did touch her neck. Like, obviously their abuse, something did happen where he was touching this girl without her consent. I want to talk about this because it's interesting. Sorry, my nose is itching. I hate when that happens. The reason why I want to bring this up is because I want to contrast this with Chris Brown. Okay, Chris Brown's massive national tour is coming up. He's literally going to take over the summer. I have bought tickets and I am a huge fan of Chris Brown. Sorry, not sorry. And we're going to compare the two, okay? Huge fan of Chris Brown. Well, you guys might say I'm a hypocrite for liking Chris Brown, but I'm going to talk about it. Okay? And at least I'm honest and transparent of my bias, right? And my hypocrisy, right? So Chris Brown is people say he's the king of pop. King of pop, oh my God, king of R&B. He's been in this music business, in the industry since the age of 13 years old. I've literally been following him since he was like 17, 16, 18. I was dancing to his music videos in between classes in the bathroom, learning his music videos, looking like the girls in the music videos. I am a huge fan. So I'm really excited to see him this summer. But people say that and I'm going to preface everything I'm about to say when we're talking about Chris Brown versus Jonathon Majors, in the context of abuse, is that, oh my God, that's one thing I was going to say. Oh, yes. Is what happens when you talk off the cuff, right? I'm the type of person who separates the art from their personal. So I'm the type of person who separates a person's art from the person. Okay? Not a lot of people can do that. Now, I do not support, and I've never listened to P. Diddy. I had no idea R. Kelly wrote the song for Space Jam. Either way, he's a bad person. He should stay in jail, rot in jail. R. Kelly and P. Diddy, whole different level of disgusting. But I do want to talk about Chris Brown and Jonathon Majors, because people love to say if you don't like Jonathon Majors, you should also don't like Chris Brown, and vice versa. Let's talk about, so I just talk about Jonathon Majors, talk about Chris Brown. So the reason why people say that is because the whole thing with Rihanna. People seem to forget that when they're talking about Chris Brown and the abuse that happened to Rihanna, like, millennials, boomers, we lived through it. Like, we were there through Chris Brown's trial and what happened after that happened. Like, I lived through it. I was watching scene for scene. So let's talk about it. So Chris Brown, if you didn't know, did physically abuse Rihanna when he left, when they're about to go to, I think it was an MTV Music Awards, one of those music awards, probably like Billboard or something like that. I don't think it was the Grammys. It was like one of those music awards. They were driving. Rihanna and Chris Brown were driving. And then there was a fight. I don't know who started it. People saying that Rihanna started it. And then Chris Brown finished it. And there was a physical fight. And then, you know, you can see the physical fight on Rihanna's face. Rihanna called her agent. Her agent called the police. She got, you know, the police took pictures. Chris Brown was arrested. And after Chris Brown was arrested, he was held in bail. I'm pretty sure. I don't think he was released. I could be wrong, y'all. Oh my God. But he got bail, wasn't released. He was in jail. Like, scenes of Chris Brown in an orange jumpsuit would never leave my mind. Like, that's so insane. A guy so famous, so world renowned, you know, the R&B star of my time, in an orange jumpsuit, you know, shackled, coming to court. And I think he got, so I don't know if he pled guilty or not, but at the end he got probation, but I think he was in jail for a couple of months too. I could be wrong, but he got probation. And then after he left all of that, or even during left jail or left prison, he ended up doing tons of interviews with people. So he went to go do it with CNN. He did it with, oh my God, so many. And he talked about what actually happened that night with Rihanna. And he was very transparent. He said he was young. The one interview that I remember was the one on CNN, the one with Larry King. Y'all remember Larry King? May he rest in peace. Y'all remember Larry King? OMG. Larry King. So I remember Chris Brown sitting down with Larry King, and they were having a conversation, and Larry King asked him, like, what happened? Like, what did he do? He goes, he blacked out. You know, he grew up with some demons and some abuse, and he took it out on Rihanna, and he has some anger issues, and that anger issues really did follow, it did follow him. He didn't really deal with it, but it was something that you can clearly tell, like, that's something that he had all throughout, that he's been dealing with all throughout his life. So Chris Brown not only owned it and acknowledged it, he did a round of interviews. He tried to explain it to his fan base, to the world, because I guess it happened so publicly, but somebody who ends up doing that don't end up doing like a round of interviews and owning it, you know? And we'll talk about that and then bring it back to the present day. But at that time, Chris Brown owned it, acknowledged it, explained it with interviewers on talk shows, on morning hosts, on all of these things. When it died down, then he was able to go around and do his, you know, and explain it to people who try to understand. And then he was blacklisted. He was technically blacklisted, still is blacklisted from the industry for a long time, because people till this day still don't like him for what he did to Rihanna, right? So with that being said, he ended up focusing on his art, really just honing in on his music. He started drawing. He got more tattoos. He got Karishi as a girlfriend. I think Croatia left him because he got another girl pregnant. I could be wrong, but I think that's the reason why he left him. But there have been rumors of him like also doing abuse to other girls, but that hasn't been approved or acknowledged. But there was an interview where he had on the Good Morning American show, Good Morning America, where I guess he got angry and he left or threw a chair or something like that. I don't know. So it's quite clear that Chris Brown has made it clear that he has demons, that he has things that he is working on, that he has issues. But what I like Chris Brown, the brilliant thing that Chris Brown ever did was to make it transparent. He didn't lie to us. He didn't gaslight us. He didn't hide it. He came out right after it happened. And you guys might say, oh, because it was so public. There are a lot of things that are happening right now that are so public. Even till to this day, influencers, celebrities, singers, writers, movie makers, like, they don't acknowledge it, right? And a lot of it is so public. So for Chris Brown to come out and say, yes, I did that to Rihanna. I apologize to her. I hope she finds peace. You know, I'm going through some things and he was so young. He was 18, 19 years old. You don't see that. And that's why I would give Chris Brown a lot of grace because of that. And a lot of people are still judging him after that. But yes, that happened. But I give him props for the things that he did after that. He didn't deny it, like I said, made it transparent, apologized profusely. And that's probably why he probably gets really angry till this day when people bring it up, even though it literally happened over like about 15 years ago. And that's why I don't think until Jonathon Majors does something like that to the effect of what Chris Brown did, I don't think anybody would be okay with Jonathon Majors. Okay? It's one thing to say, yes, I did that. Sorry, it's one thing to pretend like I'm a good person now, but you need to acknowledge it because it seems like you did do that. We can't pretend that it didn't happen, and I can't continue to work with you as if you didn't do that. You know what I mean? You need to address it, and it's affecting your career. It's affecting the people who support you. It just doesn't make any sense for those who tend to pretend like it didn't happen. I would rather him go to rehab, deal with it, spend a year working on himself, then come back to us. You know what I mean? Like, and then have interviews and say, yes, I was, I'm going through something. There's something that I'm going through that I need to heal from, that I need to change and deal with. And I don't know what part of me is making me to go and do all of that. I'd rather him do that than gaslight us and tell him and not talk about all of this disgusting things. So, and that's why I would always give Chris Brown a lot of grace. And also, every single time like I watch a TikTok, and this is not me invalidating any woman experience, any experience from a woman who may have had a negative experience with Chris Brown, but like all of the videos I see about Chris Brown who talk about Chris Brown, I mean, there are girls who get invited to Chris Brown's house, to his studio, and listen to his music. Everybody says they have the most pleasant experience with Chris Brown. Like, he is the nicest person ever. Even the allegations of him, being a colorist, people say that it's not really him, it's his team. I don't know what that's about, but we all know that Chris Brown has a type. Like, he has a type, and it's okay to have a preference, but don't be mean to the other girls. Like, I don't get what that's about. But especially when and honestly, it doesn't benefit Chris Brown to be mean to the other girls. You know what I mean? Because your fan base is mostly girls from all walks of life who looks like all different types of people: black, brown, white, Asian. You know what I mean? And that's why I always continue to support Chris Brown. And he doesn't hide. He doesn't pretend to be somebody that he's not. Like, he, even in interviews till this day, even the Shay Shay interview that he did last year, even the interviews that he did this year, like, he's a woman's man. Like, he likes dating multiple girls. He's he's a sweet guy apparently, and he's gonna focus on his music. Like, he doesn't pretend to be anybody that he's not. And also, what I like about him, he's very humble, even though he's literally a genius in his music. So I know some of you guys are like rolling your eyes and you guys don't understand. I'm not saying that I would date the man, but I do love his music. Okay, I do love Chris Brown. And so I do think there's a difference between Jonathon Majors and Chris Brown. And it would be better for Keke Palmer to sit down with Chris Brown than Jonathon Majors. And people say it's also weird too, especially when Keke Palmer hasn't really acknowledged the things that she went through with her man. And again, she's like not addressing it, and she doesn't have to, even though her mom has come out on Instagram to really discuss how her ex have treated her. So it's just weird. Like, it's weird to kiki with somebody who also is denying the abuse that she went through in a relationship, and somebody who actually caused the abuse. It's really weird, and it's just, you don't want to trigger anybody and perpetuate this culture where, you know, it's okay to sit down and interview somebody who may or may not have caused abuse if they are pretending that it didn't happen or acknowledge that it didn't happen. Like, it's just, we're not going to take somebody at their word, especially when there's all this evidence to the contrary, right? And then the contrast, Chris Brown, he admits that, yes, he did do that. He apologizes and he's moved on. And he carries that on his shoulder. And he said, yes, I have done that. You know, I was reckless. I was careless, and I had some demons. I'm working through them, and he's constantly working through them. Now he has kids, and now he has to think of his kids now, not only himself. So, and I do think there is a difference, and I think we have to be very careful. And then it goes to like the topic of, we have to be very careful on the people who we put on the pedestal, right? People who we look up to, people who we choose as role models, as the celebrities that we have a parasocial relationship with, and that's why I will ever love my father for introducing me to really strong Black role models that I can totally see myself not only looking up to, but also aspiring from, who are also good, genuine, humble people, like Raven Simone, inside and out, humble people, smart, intelligent, hustler, multifaceted, creative, colorful. Same thing with Keke Palmer. Chris Brown is definitely one of them. We all wish he didn't beat up Rihanna, but it is what it is. He came out, did his time in prison, did all the interviews, acknowledged it, and realized that he has some recovery, and he did. Like, he took like about a decade. No, he took like five or so years to really just work on himself on the DL. He did some features with some celebrity, with some other music artists, but he really didn't release a lot of music until in the last 5-8 years. And then he started to blow up, and then we saw him in South Africa last year, because he's still we still love him. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? And I know some of you guys look at this as an apologist, but there is a difference. Like, look at what P. Diddy, even after all of that. No, P. Diddy's crimes is actually on a whole different level. I'm sorry, I'm not going to compare it. That's no. P. Diddy and R. Kelly is like predator, psychopath. Anyway, so that's, I do want to talk about that, and I just find it really interesting. I don't know why would Keke Palmer and her team would sit down with Jonathon Majors. I get it, he's with Megan Good, but child, Megan Good's decision to marry him, that's her decision. That's what she wants to, despite all of what we're seeing, that's her decision. She has her own free will. It does not mean I have to support him because I like Megan Good. I love Megan Good, but I don't like Jonathon Majors. I'm sorry, I don't. But yes, I do like Chris Brown. I do love Chris Brown. Oh, sorry, y'all. My nose has been itchy. My lord. Let's talk about. It ends with us, Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. So insane, yes. The OBGYN, the actor who plays the OBGYN in the movie and helps Lily, who played by Blake Lively, gives birth to the baby in the movie It Ends With Us. He came out and said, no, Blake, I don't know why you're misrepresenting or misleading the facts here, but you were wearing black shorts. You were not nearly nude. But that's what Blake said in her original complaint. Blake has amended her complaints in the last couple of months. And she does not say she's nearly nude now. I think she says something to the effect that she feels, it's how she feels. It's not what it is, it's how she feels. Either way, doesn't look good for Blake Lively. We have somebody coming out and saying, you know, you weren't nude, baby girl. There was not a piece of clothing that was covering your hoo-ha. It was, you were wearing black shorts. And the OBGY one, I don't care. Like, I don't understand, like, this emphasis, the obsession over the actor who happens to be living in New York and is filmed in New York as a local actor. Who cares where you're from? Like, who cares what the movie gets you from? Like who cares? I don't get it. Like, Blake goes, I had to, Justin Baldoni went to go hire his friend. Blake Lively, you hired your own music score person. And you hired, didn't you hire Taylor Swift to, like, you hired your own people too. Like, I don't understand this. So, it's weird. I don't understand that. Like, who cares? If they're competent, able, and can do the job, like, who cares if it's a friend of Justin Baldoni or not? She thinks that it's a guy who is not an actor who just walked off the street. It's so that's not good for Blake Lively. But we all know at this point, any of us who's following the It Ends With Us drama, that it's more about PR, if anything. I know that Blake Lively issued an 800-page motion to dismiss against Mr. Wallace from Texas. I personally am not going to read that. Okay. Well, here's the thing. A lot of the legal documents are not for public consumption. They don't really allow us for public consumption unless you're a lawyer or who has money to download all these documents. I do not have a lot of money like that. So I'm up to date. I'm reading the case. I'm reading the documents that they've allowed us to read. Other than that, I'm not going to read them. But I will get my news from other sources. But y'all can chit chat with me down below on what y'all think, because honestly, I'm still on the opinion that I do still think that this will still settle. I think that everybody is in the discovery phase. We're in the motion phase still. I think in the summertime we're getting discovery and see what information on both sides have, and then this fall we'll see how it's going to get settled. I think the actor coming out right now before he even testifies and says that, no, you're wearing black shorts, baby girl, you were mistaken. And the problem, and the funny thing is, like, we have video evidence. I'm sure that Justin Baldoni has video evidence of all of this. Like, there's video evidence to show how she's wearing black shorts. Now, yes, she could still feel uncomfortable, but is it sexual harassment? And is it what's important in this case? In this case, the sexual harassment is not even important. It's the PR stuff, honestly. And how all this PR has affected Blake Lively's brand. Blake Brown. Now, the Blake Brown, everybody's saying that it's really about Blake Lively's brand, which is her hair care line as of current. But apparently when she did the trademark for Blake Brown, she also included mascara, makeup, beauty, skincare. So she might be intending on creating other makeup, other products underneath this trademark. But if I were her, I would honestly create a different name for her makeup and skincare, because based off what I heard people don't really like her hair care line, based on what I'm hearing online, to start afresh. And she has the money to start afresh with her billionaire husband. She can totally start afresh with a whole new brand, do something completely different. Oh, that's my stomach growling. But apparently the Blake Brown packaging is supposed to look like a honeycomb. Each of her kids are part of like this honeycomb, like bees, and I don't know. Anyways, so that's why. So it's really how the It Ends With Us, marketing drama really affected Blake Lively's brand and reputation. That's really what this lawsuit is about, and she wants damages in regards to that. So I don't know how far she's gonna get to any of that, but we'll see, and we will keep up. We will continue to watch. It's not looking good for Blake Lively. I ain't gonna hold you. And maybe she's trying to hold things to her chest. Now, they did say that they do have a couple of people who's willing to testify against Justin Baldoni. Remember that. But we have a lot of people who's willing to testify for Justin Baldoni. And there are a lot of facts that are on Justin Baldoni's side here. So we'll see how this unfolds. I'll keep you guys posted. Until then, hope you guys have a lovely spring day. It is getting warmer and colder at the same time. Here in Canada, it is snowy on one day and then warm on the next. It's weird. It's something that we're still getting used to. You don't know if you need a snow boot or a t-shirt. Hopefully you guys get where I'm coming from with like the whole Chris Brown, Jonathon Majors debate and conversation. There is a difference, and I do think that Jonathon Majors should stop making movies for a bit, focus on himself, figure out why he did what he did with his ex, figure out the demons, maybe go to rehab, like do things like that, like. And then instead of trying to force himself down everybody's throat when nobody wants you there. Because of the abuse allegations with his ex. So it's weird. I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. And don't worry, next time I will not be itching my nose for the majority of the episode. Bye, y'all.